Novation is a last ditch effort for me. I've done plenty of these. I still don't like them. My paperwork is better than what I've seen, and I'm still not happy with it. The devil is in the details. I'm telling you. So, this is where the novation is very weak because how do I secure my interest? Well, basically, the seller needs to agree to borrow from you the amount that you intend to invest in the property so that you're secured on your side of the transaction. Good luck getting a seller to say, I'll buy your house, but you have to borrow money from me to do it. Sometimes you want to rehab a property and sell it. And you could get full ownership of the property by buying it subject to. This is other than using cash. It's not a cash flip or hard money flip. So if those are off the table or you don't want to do those, then you could potentially buy it sub to, rehab it, and then sell it. One of the challenges of that is you encounter closing costs twice, and you've got a formal closing and a transfer of title, which may inhibit your ability to sell to an FHA buyer. There's the anti flip rule, 90 days. Could be up to 180 days, depending upon the circumstances. So you're trying not to narrow your field of buyers. What can you do to keep that from happening? Well, one of the solutions is the agreement to rehab and sell. Some people call that a novation. Novation is kind of a categorical name. It does not specifically refer to that type of transaction. So I just want to be careful with the terminology there. You novate one party for another in the contract or novate the contract. You, funny enough, you renovate the house. So don't get those confused. They don't mean the same thing. In a novation, or as I call it, an agreement to rehab and sell, the property does not transfer from A, the seller, to B, you. You just rehab it in the name of A. You spend your own money, and then you're allowed to go list it and market it and all the things and enter into a contract with a replacement buyer. That's the novation itself, is replacing yourself. And basically keep the difference. The devil is in the details. I'm telling you. I've done plenty of these. I still don't like them because of how variable they are. How much room for error, how much room for not having discussed things well enough. We've got the paperwork. I've improved on all the paperwork I've ever seen out there. My paperwork is better than what I've seen, and I'm still not happy with it. It's still not good enough for me. So, novation is kind of a last ditch effort for me. And it is appropriate in some circumstances, but I think most times it's not as preferable as having full ownership and control. My main problem with the novation agreement to rehab and sell is that the seller grants you power of attorney. Okay, you now have a fiduciary responsibility to that person. If you're going to negotiate and or sell the property for your own financial gain, lots of outsiders will refuse to interact with you because how are you taking proper fiduciary responsibilities if you stand to financially profit from it? It's not that you can't, it's that it's very questionable right out the gate. So it becomes very difficult to interact with certain parties. Also, the nature of a power of attorney is that it is always revocable. At any time, if your relationship with the seller goes south, they can revoke your power of attorney. And now what? Well, stink. Now you're stuck. Now you hope you put a lien on the property, and you don't want it to be a contractor's lien or a construction lien because those are treated differently than a formal note and deed of trust. So this is where the novation is very weak because how do I secure my interest? Well, basically the seller needs to agree to borrow from you the amount that you intend to invest in the property so that you're secured on your side of the transaction. Good luck getting a seller to say, I'll buy your house, but you have to borrow money from me to do it. What? Yes, literally, that's the way it needs to be for you to be properly secured. Again, the devil is in the details. And you're not negotiating this up front. You're not setting that expectation when you have the conversation with a seller. And so when people bring us deals that are primed for novation, agreement to rehab and sell, they haven't had this discussion. And when we start touching on this stuff, it's like, oh, that's actually pretty risky. Now, it works until it doesn't. Plenty of people do these successfully. But my job and my company's job is to give you the context. We're not attorneys. We give you the context so that you can make well informed decisions. So, your well informed decision when it comes to a novation or agreement to rehab and sell is what's the best way to do it? Should I close on it, own it, rehab it, and sell it and treat the Subto loan as a bridge loan? That's a cheaper way than borrowing hard money, paying points and 14 to 16% interest on that loan for a period of time while I rehab it. That's nice. You don't have to come up with all that cash. Money is expensive. So you can buy it as a sub two and use the loan as carrying costs as a bridge loan. It's a great way to do it, but it does transfer title to the property. Alternately, you could close a little faster and easier with a contract for deed. It's a transfer of equitable title. But in that case, you gain the rights to make payments to the underlying debt. You treat it like a bridge loan. However, title doesn't transfer to you yet. It's debatable on whether or not that constitutes a transfer for the anti-flip rule. I've got some workaround solutions for that, but I can't guarantee that they all work. I like the contract for deed route better. It's fast, it's fully official in transferring you equitable rights. It's more official than the agreement to rehab and sell, and you can grant to yourself in the documents the right to rehab the property. And so you're the one that selects. You don't have to select somebody else and like have a title company trust you as the power of attorney to enter into these agreements and then let the seller come in and see the final closing statement. That's the other problem with the agreement to rehab and sell is you're not going to find any title companies that are going to let the buyer buy with title insurance if the actual original seller isn't the one that signs the closing statement. The settlement statement's going to show how much money you're making. If you want to hide that from the seller, it ain't happening. The best way for you to do that is to do the contract for deed. Get a pre-signed warranty deed from them to you, put in escrow with a servicer, and then if you finish closing on the property, the deed goes to you and immediately it goes to the next buyer. Again, you still face the FHA anti-flip rule. There's so many considerations in how you approach these things that you need to have in your head before you get to the negotiation table and put it under contract with that seller. It's a lot to think of. Overall, my favorite is going to be contract for deed. If I'm not going to be in the property very long, I can probably close for cheaper. I don't have to get title insurance because the seller's title insurance is still valid because title hasn't transferred, right? I can still and should do a title search. I can even close on a contract for deed outside of a title company. Run a title search. If I'm comfortable with it, we sign the doc and either record it or not, depending on how fast I'm going to go into it. I'm touching on some really sketchy stuff though, so don't go off and do this on your own. I even recommend against it for my own clients, but some circumstances dictate that we do crazy stuff to get certain deals done. We always do it with as much caution as we can, though. Real estate's risky. Handling money is risky. Be careful.